Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Have you thought about prepping for the unprepared? Imagine that the world becomes more complicated. We already know that there are needy people. There are so many that just don't believe in preparing for anything. They don't even have an extra roll of toilet paper or enough food in the house to make a meal tonight. That's why they're all going into debt with drive-through dining and food delivery services. Even when they can't afford it, they're spending money because it's convenient. And it's the matter of I have money in my pocket or I can still use my card. I can take care of something today. They're not concerned with tomorrow, which is what preppers do. So something to think about is, are you willing to help? Who are you willing to help? Are you willing to help a homeless person? Are you willing to help a family in need? Are you willing to help a friend who's just down on their luck? Or your neighbor who really doesn't give a you-know-what about preparing, but now they're in dire straits because they don't even have an extra meal. It really does make a difference in my mind of who you want to help and how much help you want to give them. Because some people become entitled. They think they're entitled. They deserve things from others. And the only way that you actually deserve something is if you have earned something. So then if you do something for me, then I do something for you. Or if you work at your job, you have earned your paycheck. That's how you deserve something, or you're entitled to something, not just because you're alive and you didn't prepare and you want. That's not how the world works. So it's hard to not be cynical, but at the same time, we don't want to harden our hearts and not be willing to share and help if we are able to. But we have to make sure that we ponder it deeply and think about, how much can I share? How much am I able to? How dependent will I make these people? And just keep them going on the same path they're on. And what if dire straits come to my family? Am I putting my future at risk? And so those are things we need to think about. So let's think about it. If someone who's just not prepared is hungry, I might feel free to offer them a bag of dried beans or split peas or a bag of rice. And if they were like, I don't want that, well, then you're not as hungry as I am, because I would definitely prepare these things if I needed a meal and had no food. So that's one way you can size up how much help you should give someone. What if you offered someone a can of luncheon loaf, which is like Spam, or a can of inexpensive beef stew? Would they be thankful? Would they take it? Or do they feel like they're entitled to something better? Because that's something I noticed even at the food banks. They're asking for specific foods, things that I don't even buy for my own family. They're asking for you to donate so they can give it to people who don't have any food, which I think that again smacks of entitlement. If my family can eat these things that I actually buy, pay for myself, store and prepare, how come people who didn't prepare, didn't pay for anything, feel like they deserve something better than what working people are giving to their own families? So that's where I get a little hard-hearted. What if a family is down on their luck and they need an easy meal? I've done a lot of videos on meals in a bag, and this is just an example of a bag with a meal that you could give to someone that they could prepare a meal for their family. I have a box of pasta noodles. I have a can of spaghetti sauce. I have a can of green beans. Anyone who doesn't have a meal for their family should be happy to have something as basic as this, that they just need to boil water, cook the noodles, dump over the sauce, serve the beans on the side. I know my family would be satisfied with that anytime, and whether they were in dire straits or not. That would be a simple meal that can keep you fed and keep you going. So putting together a few meals in a bag might not only help your own circumstances, that when you need to get a meal on the table and you don't have the brains to think about what do I want to cook anymore, and you don't want to spend your hard-earned money, or you don't have money to do drive-through dining or delivery, you can just go into your pantry, pull out one of your bags, and then you have your meal ready to go. You just mix those things together, heat them up, and your meals are prepared. You have a meal on the table in no time. I made a lot of videos on meals in a bag, so look for those on my playlist in the description below, and you can have some other ideas on meals you could prepare for your own family out of the food that you have in your stockpile. Something to consider is if you want to give food to someone who's, say, homeless, you want to look at a meal in a can, like a hearty soup or something like chili or tamales. But something I discovered is they don't all have a pull top, and if you wanted to give some food to someone who's down on their luck and perhaps is homeless, they may not have a can opener, and so having a pull top can might make their life easier. It's just something to consider. Also, save up some of the takeaway, takeout, disposable utensils, because if someone doesn't have a home, a kitchen, they might need something like a spoon so that they could eat their meal that you gave them that was in a can. Another thing I read about is people that go to shelters for food, sometimes they have leftovers, but they have no way to take it with them and to save that food for later. So consider having a few of the food takeaway containers. I know when I buy things like lunch meat, they come in plastic containers sometimes. You can wash those out, set them aside. I use them myself in my kitchen all the time, but you could set a few aside that if somebody needed a container, you have that you could give to them. You could even put a meal in it the first time, give them a disposable spoon, and then they can go get some more food at wherever. It's something to think about. Other meals that are easy to prepare if you don't have a way to cook anything would be something like pouches, the pouch meats. This one is salmon, and it even includes a little spoon so that you can tear it open and scoop it out. You could eat that. Maybe you have crackers to go with it or whatever. But you see how you make things that they're convenient, especially if you're in dire circumstances. Other meals to consider are something like the Hormel Completes. They're already completely cooked and they're in a little dish. You're supposed to heat them in the microwave for 60 seconds. You could do that at a gas station, I suppose. But if you had no place that you could go heat it up, you could still eat it because it's all completely cooked. It's ready to serve. It would taste better heated up, but if you couldn't heat it up, you still have a meal. Just add a fork. Put together some of those foods in a gallon Ziploc bag, include a few of the utensils, and then a homeless person could have several meals to go that would be simple to eat and wouldn't require any preparation, which sometimes people just don't have that available to them. So it's something to consider. Let's look beyond food. What if it's a power outage? You could have a selection of the little votive candles, maybe a few matches or lighters. You could give somebody then an ability to have light when there isn't any. And no, I wouldn't give them the whole pack. I would open it up and give them just a few of the candles with 1 or 2 lighters. Let's think about personal hygiene items for the unprepared. Maybe somebody needs an extra toothbrush or toothpaste. You can pick up these little kits at Dollar Tree. Sometimes you can even find little just toothbrushes. Then think about little packs of plackers. They're like flossers. You can even maybe save a few of the small floss containers that you get at the dentist, and you could set those aside that you would have them then for yourself if you need them, or set aside a few if you wanted to help somebody who was unprepared. I have a little container of sunscreen because I've seen parents out with their small children and the sun is beating down and they don't have sunscreen to protect those little kids. So this Alaska granny is willing to give out sunscreen so that people can protect their children who can't do it for themselves. They depend on others. And so let's make sure that we're watching out for the little ones, that they have what they need, even if their own parents or the adults that are responsible for them are not taking care of business. What about an extra pair of sunglasses or readers? I picked these up at Dollar Tree. Last year, there was a man who was out working outside on my street, and he was bothered because the sun was so bright, and he asked me, "Do you have an old pair of sunglasses that I could borrow?" And because I picked these up at Dollar Tree, I had a pair and I could give it to him, and he was so grateful because the sun was bothering his eyes. And when he was ready to leave the job, he wanted to give them back to me, but I said, absolutely not. You hang on to those. Make sure you have them not only for the rest of today, but for any other day that you don't have what you need, or pass them on to someone else who needs them. If you need to read something, having an extra pair of readers can really make a difference. I also have some little tiny chapsticks. I know chapstick is something that's very important to me. I don't like chapped lips. You can also rub it on your cuticles. And if you ever get like a blister on your foot, you can rub it on something that's chafing, and you put a barrier between your skin and something that could be rubbing on it, besides just your lips being chapped. So something like little chapsticks could be simple to have for the unprepared. I have an assortment of little first aid kits, small first aid kits. You can even pick them up at Dollar Tree. There's all kinds of varieties. And maybe you want to have a few first aid supplies that you would be willing to give to someone who needed some first aid. I have extra nail clippers and some extra combs. I even have some small sewing kits. You can pick them up at Dollar Tree, or sometimes they're giving them out for free, different places that you stay or visit. If you need to stitch something together, or you need a few safety pins or a missing button, these can save the day, which can help make life smoother whether you're prepared or not. How about a few pairs of work gloves, or even a few pairs of socks you can pick up inexpensively at Dollar Tree? They have packs of socks, and that would be an easy way to help somebody. I think socks are one of the top things that are requested at homeless shelters. If you've ever been out and your socks got dirty or wet, or your feet got cold, having a clean pair of socks can really help give you comfort. So we know that that could be something that we could provide to someone else in need. I also have a selection of pens and pencils. I've traveled to Africa many times, and years ago when we were in Zambia, my sweetheart had a pen in his shirt pocket, and a man came up to us and said, we were in like a marketplace, I will let you have anything in my booth if you will let me have that pen for my daughter for school. And that's how important something like that is to people, that we sometimes don't even think about it, that pens and pencils are just something we have many of. But sometimes in dire situations, people need something to write a note in an emergency, or just something to help their child do homework. It was touching how much that man wanted a pen for his daughter. So of course we gave it to him. And yet we did pick something out of his booth that he wanted more money too. I'm sure we gave him money. But yeah, it was just touching to me how much that man loved his child, and what he was willing to even ask for something like that for her. Think about what you would ask for and how much it might mean to you. And that's why you want to have some things to help others. It doesn't have to be expensive. None of these things are expensive. And of course you can give people far more than this. But if you really just don't have a lot to share, or you think others feel entitled to your things, that's what is the clincher of how you have to weigh the pros and cons of what type of things you would have, who are you willing to help, and how much are you willing to help them. How about a roll of toilet paper? Would you be willing to share that? And of course, and put it into a Ziploc bag so that it stays clean. I also have a few diapers. When my grandkids grew out of them, I saved a few in case somebody needed them. And then I've even picked a few up at the Dollar Tree before. And we don't need them at my house, but somebody who comes over might, or somebody that I meet along the way. And so I'm more than happy to have a few of those things, because like I said, children can't provide those things for themselves. Babies need a clean diaper, and if the adults in their world aren't taking care of business for them, I want to be able to offer them a little bit of comfort to make their day feel better. Let us know in the comments below, what other items do you think would be good to have on hand to prepare for the unprepared? And who are you willing to help? Have you thought about that and weighed the pros and cons? Because the world is becoming more complicated. There are very many people who are more than grateful. They're humble, and they barely want to even ask for anything. We never want to harden our heart against helping others, But we do want to remember that for those who feel entitled, no is a complete sentence. I hope you'll like my video. Share it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.